It always comes to this. So there, guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the work in my inner bicep here. You can see is in the process of peeling. This usually happens for me in 2 to 3 days, so we're right on track for that. It's mostly peeled, and it is 3 days later, so just a little bit more to go, but for the most part, what you see is what you get. Not much change from fresh, and again, it will be much in line with everything else we've done, save for, say, the elbow and the ditch, which actually the ditch did pretty good, but the elbow will definitely need more love overall, even for the first pass. It just, my elbows are incredibly dry. It is what it is. They're, you know, thick layer of callus over top of them. So, yeah, good session with Rick this week, and I had a good session with Terry as well. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm having another session with Rick coming up this Monday, hopefully. Usually it's Monday, sometimes it's Tuesday. Just kind of depends. And we're going to be finally getting into the first pass on this claw in here. It'll look much similar to the one down here. And with some of this stuff, it's like, it doesn't even look like kind of what it is, even to me, until we get the color in there. There are parts of this, for example, that I wasn't sure this part was, if it was a claw or a tentacle time. You know, it gets a little bit confusing sometimes with just all kinds of crazy lines everywhere. And if it's hard enough for me to understand, then I do understand when it can be a little obtuse for some other people. A lot of what Rick and I have done has been like, you know, people have no idea what it is, then they start understanding it, then they start liking it, and it's always that way. Like, it's always a process of building up layers. And part of what's been great about working with Terry is he has a newer mindset. He's very open-minded, and he'll just more or less execute things the way I ask him to. And he himself has said he's very new at this, and he's still learning every day. So it's like, why wouldn't you, you know? Why wouldn't you keep your mind open? Why wouldn't you try new things and do things different ways? And especially if you're talking to someone who's telling you, we've had success doing it this way, we haven't had success doing it this way, kind of thing. You're just going to take the advice, you would think, but so much of this industry isn't that way. It's like, Rick, to me, though he's done a really good job of adapting, and we've done a lot of really cool stuff here, that I actually never really thought Rick would go for, because he's an old school guy. His methodology towards tattooing is deeply rooted in the past, and the way that things were done in the 90s and probably the 80s was a process of like building in your tones and building in your, you know, your lights and darks, and with color packing, you know, you do things a certain way. And he doesn't have this approach to tattooing, say the Instagram or social media approach, where it's like, I'm going to do this whole tattoo today because I want that nice picture. We already know that when you do day one, like you do one session for something, generally speaking, the body's put through a lot more trauma, and the color packing and even the black isn't going to be probably as in there as it would be if you broke it up and did it in smaller chunks. So the old school mindset is like, I want this tattoo to work for life, not for a picture, not for a week, not for a year, whatever the case. And so Rick's mindset is, I think, typically the correct one. It's just that with working over black, you have to adapt to, maybe we do the whole thing in one day, and then maybe we just do another pass or two later. Like what's happened with these roses, for example, or any of the white and red on black, or any of the black and white on black, or any other stuff that Terry and I have done. It's like, do it all in one day and then come back and touch it up. Whereas the Rick method is like, we'll do pieces of it in one day, and then we'll come and we'll do pieces of it again, and then each of those pieces goes in better, and the collective whole is better. Terry and I are still doing that. It's just in a way that works better for tattooing in general. So you're seeing on me the direct results of both methods, and one of them gets things done a lot more inefficiently when it comes to work over black. With that said, Rick's approach to typical normal color sleeves and black and gray sleeves does work at a decent pace. It's just in this, by the time you get back to add your lights after you've added your darks have mostly they've tamed off, and you don't know where your darkest point is anymore. So it's like, when you do the whole thing and you get your shade of like, so for example, this rose isn't just packed white. There are parts of it that are, and then parts of it that are shaded white, and same thing with the black shading. You have your darkest points, you have your medium dark points, and then you have your lightest points and your light points, right? So you get something like 4 or 5 different shades of black and gray in there, and those are built up. But you do it all in that session. Whereas Rick's old school mindset of I'll do the lights, then I'll do the darks, or the darks and the lights and all that, doesn't really translate as well into white and black on black territory. Not long term to do it that way. So I've seen him have to strain to fight against his own pathology. And when he does, we get better results. Like now, when we're doing all this color and black together, this works better. When we're just laying it all out, then we're just kind of wasting time. Because by the time you get back there to fill it in, a lot of the time you got to redo the black anyway. Like I think I've had this part of the black done 4 times, and we just can't get there because there's not enough time. The skin starts tightening up, and it doesn't take as well. That's a fact, by the way. Especially when you're working in cover-ups, when your skin starts tightening up, the color does not take as well. It just is what it is. So, you've got a few hour window to where that color's going in really, really well. And normal tattoos, you could probably push through that, but when you're getting diminished returns putting color in over black to begin with, you really need that window. So, and if you're spending your first 2 hours packing black, and then your next hour packing color, you're not making that much progress. So it really is just better to do things in chunks when you're working over black. Whether you like that or not, that's the way it is. And I've seen Rick rail against his own tendencies, and I feel like Rick is a good, even though he's doing this work, and it's very interesting to see him use his brain in this way. I feel like this is he's much the metaphor for this whole subculture in general, where it's almost like struggling to keep pace with change always. The idea that these new things are achievable, but the methods might be different than what you're used to, is a really great metaphor for where this industry is always at, in my opinion, because it's always evolving. The inks are always getting better. The needles are getting better. Machines are getting better, and more artists have gotten into it, where at one point is more like, jail and like pirates and fucking weirdos and drug addicts and stuff like that. More high caliber, straight-laced artists have gotten into this, and they've taken it in a new direction, and more things were achievable than what we originally considered. So, but you do have to change your thinking. And I feel like a lot of tattooers are having a very hard time understanding and accepting, like, say, what I'm doing, because they can't change their thinking. So, anyway, that was a long rant on that. I have a lot of shit to talk about, it seems like. I had a big session with Terry here. I'll just adjust this. We did about 3.5 hours. We did all the light pink and light blue highlights that I was talking about. And we redid the center again and all the highlights in the eye in the center, as the color in the eye is exactly where I wanted it to be. There's no need to redo or touch up any of that color. And even if those colors mix and it gets a little more faint, that's actually the intention. The idea was to have this be like a galactic eye, or like something that you would encounter in space. So all this kind of smoky texture was actually done by design, and that was the intended result. It's not like it was like, oh, well, the colors are going to get... No, we put colors that we knew how they would interact, they would lighten up, and this was the desired result, is to have this kind of spacey looking texture. If it wasn't the result, we would have used more solid colors like we did pretty well everywhere else. So by now, if I'm telling you something like that, you should take it on faith. But for some reason, there are still people who are like, oh yeah, that faded off, or whatever the fuck they think. All of this stuff, as I've explained before, and you know, it was even weird for Terry. He was like, he didn't quite understand what I meant when I said I wanted to do light pink and light blue highlights. I took a little marker and kind of drew over myself and showed him. And then it wasn't even until he started putting it in that he kind of started realizing, you know, the grand plan is these things aren't done to really stand out so much as it is like you're increasing contrast ratios. So the light pink, it doesn't really come across as light pink so much as it does brighten up the red. And same thing, the light blue in the purple and blue, like the deep purple and blue that we did. It's there to highlight what's already there. In the same way that you would use white in a black and gray composition, or in some color compositions, this is to add clarity and put focus on certain parts of it. And there could be some more done here still. So I'm not ruling out potentially coming in now with a really dark lined in black in places to add even more definition in areas. And this can only be achieved through layering. If you were to try and do all of this in one pass, you would fuck someone's skin up to a point where it may never recover. So the way that I've approached this is the way to approach it. In this case, it's like you do all the dark purple, all the dark blue, all the red together. Then you come in and you do some high points. Now we can come in, because we have this foundation here, we can come in and hit that with a black line. And all of this stuff is not black on black anymore. It's now black on red, blue, pink, purple, right? So as we've seen with the spider webs on my red out sleeve here over black, this is not reacting in a black on black manner anymore. Now this is reacting in a red or a black on red. So there's more red ink than there is black ink in this sleeve. So when you put black ink in certain parts of it, now those parts have more black than red again. Same thing. This was a black chest at some point. It hasn't been for a while now. So when I reintroduce black, like what has happened in these spider eyes, the black comes in dark and sharp again. So, and that again can only be achieved through layering. It did exactly what I expected it to do. The blue is actually a little bit more striking than I imagined, like the light blue, but the pink is exactly as I expected and intended. It was a happy surprise, not an unfortunate incident, that the light blue is even better than I had imagined it. So usually it's the case that these things work out better than I expect them to. It's very rarely the case that they work out worse than I expect them to do. It's partly because I have measured expectations, and also because I've had enough time to observe how this all works now that there really should be very few surprises. I had a comment recently. Someone asked me if it surprised me at all that the Portal Eye color on black didn't work out as good as some of my other color on black. If I rushed the gun or anything like that, it's like, well, the reason why this worked worse than the head, which you can see documented on this channel, I covered my head blackout in 3 weeks and then 4 weeks. We did the thorns, white on black, black on black, in 3 weeks after we blacked out my head, and we did the red backdrop for it 4 weeks after, and it all took fairly well. The reason why that wasn't the same case here with this is because whereas with the black going over black and gray on my head and negative space, we didn't have to pack it as deep, and so we didn't have to get it as pitch black. This was already a full color, full white on black, multiple pass black on black, over blackout, over another existing scarred tattoo. So already something like 10 layers or some fucking crazy thing in there. And so when we came in to do the new color on black, this black had to be, you know, pitch black, and it had to be super solid. And I didn't even, the thing that surprised me the most was that this blackout was achievable in one pass without seeing any of those compound eyes stripping through. While it was healing, it was the craziest thing. I could actually see the fly eye pattern, the sunflower seeds, as people thought of them, through the black. But when it fully healed, that went away. So less surprising than the color not working super well was the fact that the blackout took in one pass, because I was expecting to have to do 2 on that, like guaranteed 2, after having done so many fucking layers on that thing already. But it ultimately, guys, it doesn't really matter anyway. As I said in this comment, like, if I want it to be there, it's gonna be there. It doesn't matter if it takes 4 or 5 passes. Like, it's not gonna not happen. Like, this, some people think that, like, oh, it didn't work, it didn't work. No, that's not how it works. Like, I will make sure that it works. There will be as much work done there as is necessary till it's the place that I want it to be at. And that's that. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly touch on that because it was a fair comment, but it does not really apply very well to me because I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get it done. I had to sneak into the shop this morning to make this video because the shop has been super, super busy lately, and I didn't know if I was going to get time otherwise. I've been here till 6:30 or 7 almost every night, and we get in around 8:30 here. And yeah, well, this is what happens when you have a growing shop. We have 6 artists here, and we're taking on a 7th right now. So, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon. And sometimes these vlogs are hard to even put a, you know, find a place to make. The Remy Reacts are currently very behind. I think I've got, you know, about a month and a half ahead of me on vlogs and only a couple weeks on Remy Reacts, so I'm sure that will piss some people off too, but I'm a fucking busy guy, you know. Before I made this vlog this morning, I dropped my son off for work, and as soon as I'm done here, I gotta go home and get ready for work myself, so sometimes it's hard to even fucking find time for these. You know, that's the reality of this, and YouTube is not my full-time job. So for the people who get mad at the timeline being out of sync, you know, that's just how it's gonna be. Until YouTube wants to pay me, you know, 10 grand a month, that's how it's gonna be. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.